All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Primetime with me, your host, Rick. And we are here live on the Origins Game Fair YouTube channel. And just I say thank you to Origins and Gamma for allowing us to do this. And a big thank you to Adam in the background, the incorporeal voice, the voice of doom.
Ooh. Hello,
There.
everyone.
Today we're going to be painting some Malifaux third edition's Outcast starter box. It's got some pretty cool characters in there. I like the grays. They have a very I don't know, like a militia look to them. There we go. So what I'm going to start off is with the Catelyn Rifleman. I'm going to be doing some grays on their cloaks, and I'm going to be using a dark sea gray by the model color from Vallejo. So, how's everybody been doing? How about you, Adam? You doing all right?
I'm doing all right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
living the dream.
Oh, yeah. Getting ready for Expo. We've made some exciting announcements for Origins. We're just
Nice.
getting ready. Yeah. Yeah. We just got the official announcement about our big special guests of Satine Phoenix and Jameson
We're at.
Stone on our Origin Spotlight. You're going to be able
Oh,
to see an awesome interview with them from our own B Zelda. They chatted with Satine and Jameson for about an hour, and they just
mhm.
talked about all the cool projects that they're up to and
Which is
some
a
of the
lot.
cool. Yeah, they are up to a ton. It's crazy, and they are bringing a ton of that stuff to Origins Game Fair this year for
Very cool.
Origins 2022 as our special guest and yeah, it's just going to be really fun. We got some big things planned, some of which we can't fully announce. Some of it we can't get into too much detail yet, but we do know that there's going to be some just some
Yeah.
awesome actual play experience going on. Some really cool. They're going to be running some games, especially if you get one of our new very important gamer VIG badges. This is our first year that we have the VIG badges, but if someone gets their VIG badge, they're going to have access to some of the special games that Satine and Jameson are going to be running. Satine's going to be running games in the VIG lounge. They're going to be hanging
Right.
out in the VIG lounge sometimes, so you might just bump into them if you're a VIG, and you can just hang out with them. And that's in addition to all the other special stuff, like full access to the lounge, which has its own exclusive game library, and early access to the exhibit hall, and the awesome swag bag with very cool games and products from some of our sponsors.
Nice.
Just some very cool things. So it's a really cool new uh, program that's
Yeah,
just
that's
tying
super
into
cool.
things.
So, I'll be hanging out with them a week after that too at GaryCon.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah,
That's nice.
I
So you
talk
get
to
the
them
double
quite
whammy.
often. I talk to Satine and Jameson quite often, actually.
Yeah.
We do. I help them find some sponsors for
Hmm.
their projects,
Yeah.
um, like Ultra Pro and Steam Forged and
Very
stuff like
cool.
that. So yeah, um, I enjoy the content they create and the experiences that they put out there with the gaming at a mansion or gaming at a castle,
Yeah.
you know. So those are pretty neat, and they're very much a high end experience, much like if you were to go on a cruise, which I think they
Right.
have gaming on a cruise as
They have a
well.
cruise too. Yeah. They have a cruise
Yeah,
event
so
too. Yeah. Well, and they're bringing that same sort of energy and experiential level to Origins this year. So that's what's going to be really
okay.
exciting is bringing that kind of gaming experience right to Origins
Mhm.
Game Fair. So you get to have a little piece of that. Yeah, you're not
Okay.
in a castle, you're not on a cruise ship, but that same energy and experience that you'd get from, playing with Satine or Jameson on that you can get by getting that big badge and doing that, and you
Mhm.
don't you get to come to Columbus and experience all that Origins Game Fair has to offer in addition to that, and then you get that little sort of mini
Hmm.
version of that kind of gaming experience. So I think that's really one of the awesome things about having them as our special guest. And
Oh,
then
absolutely.
even if you're not a VIG, there's still going to be awesome stuff. We're going to have actual play events and workshops and cool stuff that you can sign up for that you can either watch or be a part of, being involved in
Hmm.
other ways in addition to just some of those special sort of elite things. So it's not just like, oh yeah, just the Vigs are getting this special experience. It's like, no, there's
There's a lot of special. I mean,
yeah,
there's so much that is offered at Origins Game Fair that you cannot do it all. You just
oh
can't.
yeah,
There's so much to be that you can do. So, your calendar and schedule at that show can definitely be full. And if you do find yourself having some downtime, there's always the film festival.
yeah. There's the film festival. There's the boardroom. The great thing, the film festival's awesome. By the way,
Mm-hmm.
they just run an amazing
Yep.
uh, program every year. Those movies, they're super cool. Just sci-fi, horror, fantasy, really
Yep.
awesome independent projects, short films, full length features, just like stuff you're not going to see
Yep.
anywhere else. Really cool. And
Yep.
then yeah, and then the boardroom. Like there's always the boardroom.
There's always the boardroom.
And in previous years, long-standing Origins attendees are of course going to know that the boardroom used to be $20 to get access to that. You needed to buy a ribbon. But with our new inclusive badge pricing that we've set up, that
Mm-hmm.
is now included in the price of admission. So you don't have to pay extra. Once you get your badge, you've got access to the boardroom. Everybody
That's
gets access
great.
to the
That's
boardroom.
great.
So if you have been thinking like, "Oh, I'd like to do the boardroom, but I don't want to have to pay that extra $20 to go
Mm-hmm.
pay that," which is an understandable feeling, right? This is the perfect year to
Mm-hmm.
do that. This is the perfect year to do the boardroom. If you've been the kind of person that only does the boardroom or only does like the social deduction room or only goes there and runs through the exhibit hall and does stuff with your
Mm-hmm.
friends and just plays table games because you didn't want to pay that extra price for events, a huge percentage of our events now are included. Our standard events are all included in
The
um,
badge.
the badge. So yeah,
Yeah.
um, basically any additional charge for events is just going to the people that are running that event.
Mm-hmm.
Origins isn't, for the most part, Origins isn't taking anything from there, or they're
Mm-hmm.
just putting that price on there to pay for their expenses. So it's a lot of seminar stuff or really big
Mm-hmm.
organizations that are running big role playing events, that sort of thing. There's upcharges associated with those things.
Sure.
Some of those celebrity games, that sort of thing. Like when you're doing that sort of stuff, yeah, there's an upcharge associated with that. But that
Yeah.
all goes to the organization or the person running that. That's not
Mhm.
Origins taking that extra thing.
Right.
Our part of that is included in your badge. So
Right.
it is the perfect year to come and
Hmm.
really like try to experience new things that if you've been to Origins before and you haven't tried it, try it this year because it's the best deal you can get to try that new stuff
Sure.
compared to previous years.
That's great.
So it's really exciting.
Yeah. All that sounds amazing. I'm a big fan of Seth and his wife, the ones that run the film festival.
Yeah.
I used to be the dungeon master when I lived in Maryland.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They're great people.
they are. What a great
And
event.
they probably show a really good sneak peek of their new movie that they're working on. Because if you're familiar, they did a film called Eye of the Beholder: The Art of Dungeons and
Yes.
Dragons,
Yes.
and now they're working on one that is so the Eye of the Beholder: Art of Dungeons and Dragons was a very much a um, homage to the entire history of Dungeons and Dragons art and how important it is to the hobby and everything. And they interviewed amazing artists that have been, Jeff Easley, Larry Elmore, Brom, they interviewed all these folks, Diesel LaForce, and again, so many. Anyways, their new project is about the art of Magic: The Gathering. I think it's called Ignite Your Spark. And man, it looks. They did a little sneak like trailer for it at Origins last year, so I'm hoping they'll have maybe even more, or it might just be done by this year, which would be amazing.
Yeah, we'll be having some conversations with them because that fits very well into our theme for this year, which is the art of games. So we are very focused on not now that's very inclusive because there's a lot of different artistry to gaming, right? But
Yeah,
we
absolutely.
definitely want to be highlighting the art itself, modeling
Hmm.
arts on cover art, card art,
Hmm.
miniature design, all of those kinds of things, painting, but also just the art of playing, right? Like the way that you play a game can be a form of artistry, right? If you do it well and do it in an interesting way,
Oh,
there's
absolutely.
that other sort of uh, way of looking at artistry, right?
Hmm.
Taking that science of strategy gaming and turning it into an art form uh,
Yep.
is it's a thing that many of us could aspire to.
Oh, absolutely. There's I think that's a really good theme to provoke, creativity and everything. Hopefully, I'm curious. Have you found any artists that are going to be like your guest of honor yet for this year, or are you
So
talking to
we're
somebody?
we're in some talks with people, but I can't say who
All right.
exactly. So we're
So
still.
if I were to have a wish list, I would love to see. Um, Obviously, Charles Eubank is always there, but and Larry Elmore has retired outside of this year's. I think Gary Con this year is his last convention appearance, but Larry is like one of the best. Quan Chi, who's like on every board game right now, everybody loves him, would be amazing. There's just so many good artists out there.
Oh yeah,
Um,
that's the thing. There's just such an
ooh,
amazing explosion of great artists that
yeah,
it's some of
Crystal
it.
Solid. Oh, Crystal Solly would be amazing. She's the one that did the cover for the new Fizzband's Book of Dragons,
Mm,
and she's doing Magic the
that's a nice
Gathering
cover.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's killing it. I've known her for a few years, probably like 6 years. She's been a part of the Dragon Con Artist Alley or art show for years. Um, man, Brahm would be amazing if you could get Brahm. Literally did almost everything for the Dark Sun artwork. It was almost exclusively him. He's so good. There's so many good artists. God, you got me all excited because one of the things I don't normally buy a lot of board games, right? Just because of my job, what I do,
Sure.
right? So I don't necessarily have to buy board games, which is a blessing in itself.
Hmm.
But what I do buy a lot of when I go to the shows is artwork.
Hmm.
If it's not a piece from the artist, I try to get the artist to draw in my personal book, a sketchbook that I have where I'm
Hmm.
getting different artists. I think I've shown it to you before. Because I felt like I had it at Origins last year. Otherwise I probably showed it on the stream here.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think that'll be a
but
fun
it's
one for definitely for the stream.
yeah, there's so much good artwork in it. It's the very first piece is a Larry Elmore piece of the old wizard that he's like the that he's known for. Like he didn't even have to, like when I showed it to him, he's like, "Oh yeah, I'll draw it in there for you, Rick." Okay, cool. And it took him like 8 minutes to do this quick sketch of the wizard that literally is in everything he does. It's like it's Larry Elmore's work when you see it because it's him. I think it's just a self portrait, really. But we should actually start talking a little bit about this miniature.
We should, yes. I suppose that's true.
We are
You
here to.
know, it is the Origins channel, so we got to talk about
Yeah.
Origins at least a little bit. So,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no problem. A little bit. We should talk about it quite a bit. Uh, so as I said, I'm just putting on some gray for their uniforms right now, and then I'm going to go through real quick and do some flesh tones on these characters. And what's really interesting is the two characters in here, um, the rifleman look like your standard like midwestern guy, but the female character whose name is Yannick Waller is of Asian descent in sculpt and appearance. So I'm going to have to try a flesh tone that is a little more I don't know what I would call it other than like maybe a caramel,
hmm
maybe a light caramel. I may have to lighten it up a little bit
hmm
um to kind of get the appropriate skin tone. But she has a scar on her face, which is
Ooh,
like,
so you've got
yeah,
like another layer of skin tone
yep,
shift right there.
exactly,
And how gruesome does
exactly.
that scar? How gruesome do you make that scar? Because
I don't know how
scars
well
can
we can
be,
see it even
yeah,
on the miniature though.
because scars can be
But
so subtle sometimes, right? Like
yeah.
you could have something that's just a little paler, but you could also have something that gets really dark,
Hmm.
and there's really a
And
wide.
faces are already tough, right? For
Sure.
me, because again, we talk about the eyes, but you can't really see on the face here where the scar goes, but it goes over her right eye, like from the middle of her forehead down to like the center of her cheek over her
hmm
right eye, kind of like Scar from Lion King, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be kind of neat to do that one, um, or to find a way to incorporate it on there. I'm hoping that once I do the base skin tones for her, it will be easy to see the scar once a flesh wash
Sure.
just over her face might accentuate it,
That makes
because
sense.
I can see it on the mini while I'm holding it here, but I don't think it's very visible
hmm
otherwise. Okay, so I'm gonna try this brown here for her face, and I'm gonna lighten it up just a little bit. Let's see my white out. But, so I think the channel that I promoted on my Facebook page is the wrong one, because I don't know if you knew this, there's another channel that's Origins Game Fair, and it has the old Origins logo, not the new one.
Well, that's strange.
It looks like it has like 3 videos on it,
Okay. Well, here.
but
Let me.
I'm gonna grab this real quick and do an edit
Well, that's strange.
post over here, because that is not right. Paste. Let's do that. See how it works. There, that's better. Um, so I'm going to use a little ivory to kind of tone down this color. It's way too yellow for me.
Yeah, that's very yellow.
There we go. A little bit more, I think. kind of funny is I'm mixing like so much paint right now just
Yeah.
to do face and hands on a miniature that is super tiny.
Hey, we've all done that sometimes where you're not getting that mix right, and it's not like you can take away paint, right?
Right?
You can't take it out, so you gotta add it. So
Yep.
to get that color that you want.
Hashtag facts.
Yeah,
Hashtag facts.
yeah. Sometimes you're just stuck adding that color and adding that paint, and
Yeah.
you gotta make a choice.
Yeah, this is
Now,
too much paint.
yeah. Now, once you've got her done, could you
Mhm.
blend in some other colors to sort of shift that color, just add a little bit onto that to shift it up for the guys and
Yeah,
just
absolutely. Yeah, I think what I will do, because you're not wrong. Uh, the tones aren't that far off regardless. You just want that,
sure.
right? That little bit of differential to, and I think what's going to make it so that it'll be good for the guys is the a little more ivory to lighten it up just a little bit. And I think that'll be good. But then, of course, I want to, like I said, I want to take a light tone or light flesh wash and put it over these miniatures,
Right.
over their flesh, just to give it a, that um, shading that is going to make those crevices and stuff pop out for everybody and be like, yay, Rick's amazing. And then I'll be like, it's all an illusion.
Yeah. cheating cheating is what painting's all about, right? Like
Yeah.
never cheat in games, always cheat in paints.
Speaking of which, here's a look at what outside of I haven't done the basing,
Hmm.
but here is our orc
Oh
from
yeah.
last week.
Nice.
I think he turned out really well with his unicorn haired
Yeah.
top knot and everything. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
like
he'll be
that.
fun. Fun to put the table and let people fight. All right.
Now, are you are you gonna lighten with the wash, or are you gonna go with something darker to sort of create that sort of like really, they're soldiers, especially that like militia feel.
I'm gonna go with I'm actually gonna go with a light tone, which is gonna throw some browns into it to give them
Hmm.
that like yeah, like they've been out in the field for a month or two.
Yeah,
They're ground pounders. They're not like high commanders that are in
yeah,
you know
yeah. They're not all pristine, like, oh, we've been you know, driving
hmm
around or something, or back at base, and here we are now. We're slogging through the mud, and
yep. Because I actually the only two that I actually see to be like relatively clean in these four miniatures are the two riflemen because they just look like they're when I say riflemen, they look like snipers. Like
mhm,
they would hide out right in some sort of like high position or position to get good angles in their combat.
mhm.
Um, and they might have a little more um, discipline, I guess, because this guy, who's obviously just a brawler, right,
Yeah,
has some sort of like diesel punk device on his back, which probably spews out like motor oil and gas and fumes. So he's going to be just filthy, right?
yeah. Oh yeah.
And then the girl, Yannick Waller, which is a scary combination of names, because if I'm right, the bounty hunter that's on Book of Boba Fett, played by Ming Na Wei, is named Yannick as well,
Oh yeah.
and Waller
Yeah,
is
Amanda Waller.
Amanda Waller.
Ooh.
So yeah, there's a combination of scary in that character right there.
Oh yeah. Amanda Waller is a powerful, powerful force.
Uh, yes, and I don't know if you've been watching the Peacemaker.
I have not. I don't have HBO Max, so I've not been able to
Okay,
watch. I need to. I need to like subscribe just so that I can watch some of the DC content that's on there because I really do
yeah,
like DC Comics and yeah, I have
it
heard
is
good things.
wild.
Yeah, it sounds really fun. And I really did enjoy the Suicide Squad. So
Okay, good.
um, yeah.
Yeah, it definitely brings more to the story and fleshes out Peacemaker as a character
Mhm.
more so than even the comics have ever done.
Oh, sure.
You know,
I mean,
it's like, man,
well, of course, because I mean that isn't that the thing about that movie that, you're pulling out such, D-list characters.
yeah,
I mean, apart from uh Harley and
mhm.
to a lesser extent Bloodsport, but even Bloodsport's like C-list probably,
Probably C list. Yeah, that's where I'd put him.
right? Like,
Yeah,
you know.
he's a good. I mean, Polka Dot Man and King Shark and
Yeah.
everybody are good in that movie,
Yeah.
but
King
you
Shark's
really,
probably. Oh, go ahead.
I'm gonna say, you really get to know um, Peacemaker
Yeah. Well, and
in
like
this film.
King Shark's probably uh the second most well-known character of the bunch,
Oh yeah,
right? Outside of Harley, who's, she's an A-lister, but
right.
everybody else is all this uh, lower level stuff. But I think that's a good opportunity for DC to, I mean, Iron Man was certainly B-list and potentially C-list before Iron Man the movie. Certainly
Yeah,
B-list in the Marvel like
yeah,
canon.
and yeah, and the overall Marvel microscope, I guess you could say, he was probably a B-lister. Had a lot of great stories and everything in regards to his character for years,
Sure.
but you know, Spider-Man,
Well, yeah.
right?
I mean, what we're not talking about quality of story or quality of character
Yeah,
even. It's just awareness of character,
yeah.
right? Like I've always considered when you talk about like A list and B list and C list characters, it's like
Mhm.
how likely is it for someone to recognize them if they're not a, comic book
Sure,
fan?
sure. And I can see that. I mean, I think a lot of people today would argue just because they would think Iron Man is an A-lister from the comics.
Oh, and he is now, right? He's
Well, he is now, but before, like you said, before that, and the fact that most people only know the character from the movies, they don't realize that of all the so I sometimes when I think about A-list comics and characters, I think about first appearances and their
yeah,
number one issues and how much value they held.
yeah,
Before the Iron Man movie came out, you could get a Iron Man number one for $700
yeah.
in a decent grade.
Mhm.
Can't do that now, right?
Yeah, and that sounds like a lot, but by comic standards for a first issue for that era, that's,
Yeah, 10 years ago wasn't that was nothing because you were already seeing in the Marvel universe $1 million comics being sold on at auction for like Amazing Fantasy 15 number first appearance of Spider-Man
Mhm.
was already selling for 1 million 10 years ago
Yeah,
or 12 years ago now, I guess.
yeah.
So
But, that's Spider-Man, like
yeah.
top of the
And
list for Marvel
what a lot of people
A-listers.
don't know too is like the X-Men as a franchise was the worst selling franchise until Giant Size X-Men number one came out when they brought Colossus and Wolverine
Hmm.
to the team. Before that, it was the worst selling
Hmm.
comic that Marvel had for like years. Like you could go 4 or 5 months and not even see an issue on the newsstand
Hmm.
because they're just like, we'll get to it. Nobody likes this book. Now, again, almost all those characters are relative A-listers, like Professor X and Wolverine
Yep.
and Jean
Storm.
Grey and Storm and Colossus and Cyclops.
Mhm.
So it's so interesting how certain characters find their way to the forefront, and how cinema, how a different medium can literally launch them into that space.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, I think it just goes to show you that, comics are still something of a niche market. Like the
Hmm.
comics characters aren't, but comics
Hmm.
themselves are still, the circulation on a comic book just isn't what distribution on a movie is.
Oh,
So,
absolutely not. Yeah.
you just so that's what people are going to think of when they think of the characters. So,
Hmm. No, you're right. One of the things I always thought about the Marvel universe and the movies is at the end of every one of those movies, or even at the beginning, as like a pre-roll, part of the credit, not pre-credits, but the pre-show entertainment, I
mhm.
guess. There should always be a commercial that says, "Do you like these amazing stories of the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Check out where they began at your friendly local comic book shop." Right.
Yeah.
And what's kind of fun about that is there's so much synergy right now between comics and
Mhm.
tabletop gaming,
Oh yeah.
right? That it would have just benefited everybody. You want to read more about these amazing heroes you love at the theater? Check out this book, and then you get there and you're like, "Oh, that's super cool! Wait, there's a game featuring these characters too, and I can play my favorite characters or heroes."
Hmm.
Yeah, I thought it was a missed opportunity, and I kept bringing it up while I was working at Diamond to all the Marvel folks, but such is life. Maybe next time. Maybe next time when the Matrix resets. I love talking about comic books, and I know Marvel isn't like necessarily your Space Jam.
Well, it's not so much I enjoy the movies, and I have
Yeah,
enjoyed many a Marvel comic in my time.
yeah,
I've just always gravitated towards DC. I like Marvel. I
yeah,
I I I hate that. Like I come from the like really strong like that 80s 90s era of just like Marvel versus DC, meh, anger.
yeah, yeah.
Like I feel like that was very strong when I was
Mhm.
a kid. That very distinct rivalry, and like you had to pick one or the other, and that
Right.
was your who you were. And
Hmm.
um, I just don't like that. I just
Yeah, I've never liked that either. I agree. I think putting a rift between the two franchises is never good. I think one of the best things they ever did was the Amalgam series, where
oh
they
yeah,
brought and put the heroes together.
yep, that was
I thought
fun.
that was brilliant.
Yep. Well, and it was really capitalizing on that rivalry, right? Like doing
Yeah.
the DC versus Marvel thing, and then they do the amalgam, and then that whole run was just yeah, let's play on it, and
Hmm.
you know, it's it's a
Yeah, I
good
thought it was
business
great.
strategy. Yeah, we're gonna
Yeah.
capitalize on the rivalry and force you to buy some comics from the other brand.
Yeah. Yeah. It was so, I
See
mean,
what it
it definitely
offers.
sold a lot of comics.
Mhm.
But what I would like to see, speaking of stories, so one of the cool things about the Malifaux tabletop game,
Mhm.
which for those of you that might, catch this bit later or just tuning in or whatever, um, that is what we're painting today. Some Malifaux miniatures from the new third edition, the Outcast starter kit box minis, and the whole Malifaux world has a very rich and interesting story to it. Right, there's a rift that opens up, and these creatures from what they call the other side start pouring into our world. So we have to, and this is right around the Victorian age, right? So
Mhm.
late 1800s, early 1900s.
Mhm.
Um, around and they've definitely taken on the steampunk diesel punk vibe with a lot
Yeah.
of this. Uh, I would love to see a comic book series based on the Malifaux uh, IP, just because you could take they have named characters that people have enjoyed playing for years. They have some amazing factions. My favorite faction is the Relic Hunters. Think Indiana Jones meets Rick from the Mummy franchise.
Yeah. That sounds
Um,
really awesome.
it's my favorite faction in the game. Uh, and then my next favorite faction is they have what's called the Ten Thunders, and then there's, there's two other ones, but they're all like martial art factions. So
Hmm.
monks, similar to like any of the old like kung fu movies of the
Hmm.
60s and 70s.
Yeah.
So you get all that like old kung fu movie vibe with these characters, and they're in amazing poses, doing amazing. It's just good, cool stuff. And I'd like to see what kind of stories could be put to a comic book thematic, and uh, I think that would be just a blast. Now it makes me feel like I should be talking to him and be like, "You want me to write a graphic novel?"
Somebody needs to.
Somebody needs to. Yeah. Why not you, Rick? Man, Kelly and Nathan over at Weird are gonna. Hopefully, they'll enjoy this.
Cool. Yeah, I'm kind of
I think
looking through
they're
some of the
going to
core
be at Oregon.
boxes right now, just seeing
Yeah, I think I
what's
have
out
most
there.
of them. They just sent me the new like 2-player starter box,
Oh yeah.
and it looks really good. I haven't cracked it open yet. I'm doing a video for it here probably Friday. Um, just to do an unboxing of what you're going to get in there and
Hmm.
everything. So that should be good. All right.
Cool.
Dropping these base coats on these characters is crazy because these are some when you think about like a D&D miniature. I'm gonna show a comparison real quick for people. There's even sculpts provide skill level challenges.
Hmm.
So this is a miniature from Steamforged, one of their Epic Encounters boxes, and you can see that it's got a lot of stuff going on in it, and the detail is pretty good. But the detail in these is significantly different, right? I think they're maybe a little bit smaller scale. When you think about size differences in regards to like character sizes, and even with that orc from the other day, see they're a little bit different in size, and
Yep.
like look at the size of that arm on that orc compared to the size of the arm on this guy. So there's the skill level challenge of painting a Malifaux figure is significantly different than what you might expect with a normal miniature, but the detail in these is also significantly different and better in a lot of ways. Uh, I almost feel like I should be using my glasses of true seeing to do these. I have those magnifying lenses to really get in there, but right now I'm just putting the bases on all the different bits and pieces on the miniatures. So right now I'm doing gunmetal gray on like these bullets on the belt and their belt buckle, just to get the little details I can, because they are gray. Their uniforms are that gray color, so it's not like there's a lot of, I don't know what to say. There's not a lot of like pop and color in these characters because again, they're very, militaristic. They're militia types. They're not going to want to be like gaudy in their attire. They don't want to stand out. They want to be
Hmm.
able to blend into a crowd, maybe do some guerrilla warfare tactics, like jump in, jump out, shoot from a distance, um, and not get caught. Because that's what I see with these guys, the Outcast. So it says on their box here. I wanted to say I thought it had like a little like uh, blurb on here, but I don't see one. Maybe there's something inside the box where I can be like something to the characters. Um, yeah, so the Catwin Rifleman, it just gives them their abilities. So they're an expert shot, which I kind of figured because of the long rifles. They're
Sure.
hard to kill. When this model suffers damage, it has 2 or more health. It may not be reduced to below 1 health. That's pretty cool. So they're hard to kill. They have a price of progress and stand and fire. Is unengaged enemy models that resolve the charge action within 8 suffer 1 damage. Jesus. So these are already some cool abilities. One of my favorite ones is hard to kill. It'll keep your figure on the platform or on the play area a little bit longer and make your opponents be like, question everything they do. I'm going to put a little brown here. Some of these other uniform bits.
Oh, that's just creepy.
What's that?
So I'm just looking through, and I'm in the Arcanist faction, looking at this waiting in the wings
Yeah.
group with the mannequins.
Yep, they are creepy.
Oh, so creepy.
So that's the other thing too, is like the factions take on a bunch of different, I don't know what you're gonna call it, like mythology type stuff. Like the Arcanists, like you said there, they've got some real creepy um figures. They've, oh, man, I'm trying to think of, there's another one that basically I think the Unbroken. So they're like twisted, right? There's also where they've like melded different flesh to other creatures, or they've taken their own body parts and replaced them with diesel punk or steampunk like gear.
Hmm.
That's another faction. I can't think of what that faction is right now. I feel like I have some right behind me though. Um, but not just Malifaux as the miniature skirmish game that it is, but they also have unit skirmish in what's called the other side.
Okay.
And the other side, you could put like 5 or 6 models on one base, and that's your like squad.
Oh, okay.
And they also have monsters. Like I said, from the other side, these creatures and monsters are coming through into our world. Like they have this one creature that we painted. Like one of the first things we painted was from the other side here on
Yes.
Prime Time. That big, looking like a Rancor had a baby with Cthulhu,
Hmm.
right? And then there's also the immolated or immolation rhino. So this rhino that is like a running cinder that you like, a charcoal cinder,
Hmm.
which is super scary. And there's all sorts of other creatures as well. So, like I said, the mythology and the story in the whole concept of Malifaux and the other side is pretty rich and has some really unique characters that I think, in regards to story context, would be fun to read novels and graphic novels and comics and stuff around them. You'd have to find a named character that exists in the world, and that's your primary, and you just start writing a story around it, right? But the question is, what character would you pick as your main? And not a lot of people, I think, know a lot about the named characters and stuff in regards to this game that don't play it, right? So
Sure.
much like I couldn't tell you anything about any of the like named Primarchs or whatever
Sure.
from Warhammer, but I know that there's a lot of information and story told about these characters, and that diehard Warhammer fans and GW fans, they know that stuff, and there's novels and
Hmm.
everything. So there's a lot out there. So right now I'm putting this brown on their khaki pants and their tops, just to kind of separate it a little bit more from their gray cape and primary shirt
Hmm.
on the minis here.
Yeah.
This is so I think we're going to bring these back next week too,
Yeah,
to
given the
work on them.
time, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm working on all four of these miniatures at once, so
Sure.
we're not going to get one done, because I'd like to try to keep them all in the same like uniform and colors and stuff. And I feel like if I did them one at a time, I would not do that.
That
I'd be like, this guy needs purple pants.
makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to next month. We've only got what, 4 weeks till Expo.
Well, we do not have long till Expo. For those of you that don't know, Gamma Expo, which is also run the Game Manufacturers Association, runs Origins, and we run Gamma Expo. Gamma Expo is the uh, gaming industry convention. It's the
Hmm.
uh, trade show side that's industry facing. So it's when the publishers and the retailers and that sort of thing they all gather together to look into the new releases, start deciding what they're gonna get in stock and how much they're gonna get in stock of what new games, and
Yeah.
do all that kind of stuff. So that's a big event that we're getting ready for before, as sort of a lead up almost to Origins. Like internally, that becomes a big
Mhm.
lead up for us to sort of prep and network
It
before
also gives you
Origins.
like some first looks at stuff that you might want to like. Oh, for Origins, if we know that this is going to be announced here at Gamma, but releasing in June, we should do a big deal around this,
Right.
right?
Absolutely.
And work with the publishers, get them all like hyped up on like we could do whatever, a pop up room specifically for that game. Or I'm trying to think in the past what there's some things like that have occurred where you're like, there's literally a space dedicated to this one amazing new release. But that was a question I had for you, and this is again back to the Origins Game Fair. Uh, Last year it was hybrid ish. Will it be hybrid again this year? And
So last year was basically all online, and so for Origins Origins will have some streaming associated with it. We are in the process of developing exactly how we're going to be streaming that. Some of our content is going to be, live streamed out. For that, we're going to be setting up some stuff on our main stage and that kind of thing. To get some streaming, we are actually meeting about that this week to get some new
nice.
planning. So there will be some online content for those who can't attend. We are requiring vaccinations, so
Mhm.
that's a thing. And there's just concern from people, even if they are vaccinated. I know that some people have some concerns about going to a live event right now, and
Yep.
we are cognizant of that and doing our best to make sure that you can have a fun gaming experience with us too. But it's not going to be exactly the same like last year where we had the uh, online store and the experience through that. Like we're not setting up on there in the same way
Oh, okay.
that we're we did
Okay.
last year
Is
because
it is it also going to be hybrid like it was this past year, where there was that was it GDEX?
Now that will be hybrid, yes. GDEX we are partnering with again on Origin Spotlight. Chris Volpe, the director of GDEX, was on a couple weeks ago, so check out our Origin Spotlight playlist and our Origins Game Fair 2022 playlist, rather. And,
Mm-hmm.
take a look at Origin Spotlight, and you'll find the GDEX previews. So if you don't know about them, they're a video game convention that's been around for many years here in Columbus, Ohio, as well. And we partnered with them last year to do a joint convention, and we're doing that again this year. So if you get an Origins badge, you get a GDEX badge. If you get a GDEX badge, you get
Yes.
like it's one badge for the two conventions that are kind of going on simultaneously in uh, the space. We're just sort of merging them in a sense together.
Right.
And it's really cool. If you're into video games at all, they're running video game tournaments. They're running. They are a great place for new designers, for indie designers to showcase what they're working on. So uh, there's sort of that side of it as well. And Chris can obviously talk much better about their convention than I can. So, but
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 yes, it is happening that way.
yeah, yes, it is, and it's gonna be awesome, and they're gonna be doing some cool stuff. So
Cool.
check out their side of things too, and that's just the letter G, DEX, GDEX for GDEX, the GDEX. Uh,
Very cool.
Search online for them, and just check out our Origin Spotlight if you want to know what's going on with them.
Nice.
So cool, yeah. And that's a great one if you're curious about the VIG program too, because I'm on there talking with B about the VIG program as
Okay.
well, and I talk a little bit about the VIG program and a little bit about our new badge program, like our inclusive
Mhm.
the inclusive badges. And so if you've got questions about how the badges work, that's a good one. There's a bunch of stuff. Like Origin Spotlight has been great the past few weeks. We've really covered a lot of stuff. What getting your badge, registering for events. If you want to run awesome events, like this is a great convention to just come and try running a couple of events. If you've never run an event before, do it this year. It's great. Like where you get awesome perks. You can get your badge for free. You might even get more depending on how much you run. If you want to get your friends together and run a bunch of events collectively, you can get a hotel room or um, multiple
Nice.
badges, parking, whatever works for you. If you're local, you can get parking instead. We know how Columbus parking can be, so
Right.
getting your parking badge, getting your parking pass all week long for every day that you get your badge for, like that's pretty awesome if you can
Yeah.
swing it. So you guys can, if people want to get together, and that's a great way to sort of pool your resources, run a couple of events,
Yeah, that's pretty
yeah,
awesome.
just run what you love. Like,
Yeah.
run a Malifaux game. Like just like teach if you play Malifaux, if you're watching this and you're a fan of Malifaux because you stumbled across this, like we want Malifaux games at
Yeah.
Origins. Absolutely. We want all kinds of miniatures games. So like do a little learn to play, bring a couple of factions. Let me know about it because I'm kind of intrigued about Malifaux. I've always been sort of like on the fence. I'm always on the fence about a lot of miniatures games, but Malifaux is one of the ones that I've like always kind of looked at and been like, yeah, the miniatures are awesome and the game seems very cool, and I'm always
Yeah.
sort of like on the fence about it. I'm looking here like this whole time I've been like just sort of skimming through the pages. Like I keep going
Yeah.
back to the Arcanus. I think they're you know
That's the one that's like drawing you a little bit to it.
I keep liking that. I like that Rasputina box, the
Oh,
Hoffman box with the like the dude with the big mech arms. Like that just sounds
yep.
very awesome. And I'm really liking these those the arachnophobia box set with the like mech arachnoids. That seems
Yep.
very cool. Uh, so
Yeah.
just
And
like
the mechanics of playing the game is super fun too because it's done with a poker deck,
cool.
right? And instead of rolling dice, and everything. It's done with poker cards, and and the cards represent like your skill checks, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty cool. And I think Weird will be there. They were there last year,
Oh
so
yeah.
I don't doubt they won't be there again. I mean, they'll be there, and I think they're at Gamma too. So
Yep.
that, and then for you, obviously, that's an opportunity for you to have those conversations with the publishers. They're like, hey, what kind of content are you going to be providing at the show? Uh, well, here's some other ideas.
I there's just looking through some of this. The Nelly core box with the journalists and the mechanical printing press that you can fight with. Like
Yep, it's crazy. I mean,
that thing's
imagination that
wild.
yeah, the imagination that's put into it is super cool. Um, and if you've ever watched or read uh, Lady Mechanicus, I think is what it's called. It's a comic book that's very much steampunk.
Hmm.
Um, I wish that Malifaux and them would have had a crossover, because Malifaux has so many more like out of this world crazy concepts that would have fit really well in that comic book series.
Hmm.
Um, Man, I can't remember the guy's name. He lives in Washington or in Seattle. The artist. I'm really bad with his name. Uh, but yeah, these are looking pretty good. I got my grays. I need to do the boots. Got some gunmetal on there. Got their flesh, their hair. It's gonna just boil down to doing some details in the next episode, and these cats will be complete. Uh, but they're looking pretty good. This guy with the red hair, though, um, I don't know. I don't know if I'd want to fight this dude.
He looks pretty scary.
Yeah. Did you watch? Do you have Netflix?
I do.
I think Arcane. Is it Arcane? Is it on Netflix?
It
The
is. That sounds right. I have not
Okay.
watched it yet, but that's another one that's like sitting on my list as
Okay. Because
something.
this character reminds me of one of the characters you meet early on in the series, and the girl V or
Okay.
Vi. Um, she has a like this guy has power gauntlets that are charged by this backpack, right? And she kind of has something like that in the cartoon as well, or ends up getting something like that.
Hmm.
Um, but they're something practical. They turned into a weapon. There are these gloves that are supposed to help people that work in the mining field, but they turned them into some pretty wicked weapons. And I can see that might be the concept with this is, yeah, this definitely gives them strength to lift more things, but it was originally designed for this mundane task that we, now have them like the lumber industry, because I feel like the lumber industry and the steel industry would have been like pretty popular during this age,
Hmm.
because it was in our own age.
Sure.
And maybe this was used like to lift lumber, or to help push carts, or to lift bigger blocks of ore into a mining carts.
Hmm.
But then they're like, you know what, let's just teach these guys how to box with these on. And then they become weapons, and just wild. Because in the end, I think that's what we always do with everything. How can we use this to hurt the other person while they're trying to hurt me with that same thing? Dang it. So we're at our hour.
Yeah.
For everybody that tunes in or checks us out later, thanks for coming and checking it out. And for those of you that may have snuck in and saw what we were doing, thank you so much. We appreciate you. Um, Again, we painted on the Malifaux Outcast starter box today. It's going to show that right here. Um, this is part of their new third edition line, and you can check out everything in regards to the Malifaux line at weird-games.net. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. We're going to bring these miniatures back next week to finish them up, do the detail work, and hopefully they'll be all done and looking good. And Adam, thank you so much again for everything you do,
Thank you,
keeping it
sir.
straight and dropping the big knowledge bombs on what's going to happen with Origins that you could talk about. So that was fun. I'm really excited to know that Satine and Jameson are going to be there doing what they do. So, and that VIG badge sounds really cool. We should figure out a way to like hype that up on the TikTok as well.
Yeah, yeah, we're really excited about it. So cool.
Yeah.
Well, thanks everybody. We'll see you next time.